So Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell. This book is really great because it tells the story of success through a series of circumstances, environment, and he tells the story of success through these anecdotes, which are really interesting. And he breaks down all the factors that led to people's success. So the sum total, sort of the cumulative effect of this book is that when you finish it, you think, yeah, it's not just talent. Some of it is right place, right time. A lot of it is hard work. And a lot of it is just iterating. Hello, readers and non-readers alike. This is the Bookwise podcast for book club, and we're here for another edition of Dr. Books. I'm your host, Britt Brewer, A.K.A. the one, the only Dr. Books. I read them and I tell you about them because I don't go outside a lot. That's why I'm so pale. Okay, we are going to hear from a caller who is requesting a book and excited to hear what we have in store today.
Hello there, Dr. Books. I keep having a debate with my coworkers about what's the most important thing to succeed in whatever it is you're pursuing. Is it talent or is it hard work? Personally, I think talent is overrated, and I hope you can guide me to a book that helps me prove my point. Any ideas? Yours truly. Talent is overrated.
Okay, that was Talent is Overrated. I think I have the book that you're looking for, and then we'll go through some other books that live in this realm. It's been a very popular conversation, and I think it's a worthwhile conversation. But first, drum roll, please. And we've got Outliers, the story of success. Malcolm Gladwell. Boom, boom, boom. That's what, whenever you read this, that's what happens. It's just like, it's pretty exciting. No, but this book is, listen, the man is nothing but prolific. He lives by all of the ideas and rules that he outlines in his book. He is no slouch. But this book is really, he's got the whole 10,000 hours. He's got all that sort of stuff. Tipping Point. You've heard about him. He talks about, and we're going to play a clip from this, but he talks about the story of Fleetwood Mac, who have had so many members, so many albums. I have a little bit of a snippet of Malcolm Gladwell talking to the London Business Forum, and I think this is a great little anecdote that he talks about. It's about Fleetwood Mac, and I think some of his inspiration for writing Outliers. Without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, the fro, the curly, curly locks.
The band is going through all of these constant mutations, and as they do, they keep turning out records, right? Not one, not two, but a dozen records and more as they progress through the 70s, through the 60s and early 70s. It's only when they get to L.A.
and the 80s,
in the early 70s, and when Bob Welch finally leaves the band, that they hired Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks and become the Fleetwood Mac that we know as Fleetwood Mac. Now that process took 10 years. 10 years and 16 albums. They're not some kind of overnight sensation. They are a band that was a decade in the making. Now, that's a really critical fact because
Malcolm, this is
so
what happened. Me, Stevie Nicks, I joined the band.
Extraordinary successes.
And I brought in my witchy wisdom. Malcolm, it's me, Stevie. Call me back, Malcolm.
I mean, they have essentially been iterating on this idea of sort of a, Southern blues rock music through the lens of, for a long time, Brits. And then when it came over to the States, they kind of got the electric edition of Lindsey and Buckingham, and that had a synergistic effect. And then everybody in the band was, breaking up and doing drugs and arguing, and that had a synergistic effect. It's less about success and more about what you do with failure. And that sounds really corny, but, if you actually break down people who are successful, they're talented, but unless they were born to, unless they're Nepo babies, they had to grind. And they are usually pretty myopic. Sometimes, they are not exactly the most fun people. I mean, if you've seen Amadeus, Mozart.
Mozart?
How good is he, Miss Mozart? He's remarkable.
Is an unprincipled, spoiled, conceited brat.
I'm a vulgar man. But I assure you, my music is not.
Kind of seemed like kind of a douche. But boy, did he write good music. Yes. Did he have a God-given talent? He did. But the man grinded. Okay, he had that parchment paper and the quill, and he was dipping it in and he was writing it. He was working. Mozart was not slacking. And I know all this because I watched that movie. Some other books that live in this category, along with all the other books that Malcolm Gladwell has written. We've got Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us by Daniel H. Pink. This is about human motivation. It's about why people buy what they buy, why they do what they do. And the last one I'm going to recommend in this space is Grit by Angela Duckworth. And again, another author who uses really great anecdotes, personal stories, examples from real life to really just kind of like ground some of these, what could be seen as more obtuse theories. But it's really just, it's grit. It's about how you have to persevere. You have to have kind of a rubber band effect whenever you face failure. And it's the people who find success are the people that just keep on keeping on and don't get discouraged and don't think like, oh no, I'm not talented, because so often it's not about that. Passion and perseverance, that's a big, big thing that she talks about. She has something called the grit scale, which if you're into homework, you can do it. I've done it. It's cool. Sure. Yeah. It's cool. But mostly it's just a good read to remind you that when you get down, you got to get back up. Just that's time and time again. Rocky Balboa, he got hit, he got back up. And he might have had some lifelong brain damage, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about grit and perseverance in the workplace. So hopefully you're not getting punched in the workplace. And with these, you can really have some ammo for the next time you get into a bar fight with somebody about talent and whether it's worth it. Because I get into those all the time if I went to bars, which I don't because I read all the time. But if I did, I would be armed with a lot of facts, statistics, and anecdotes and case studies about grit, perseverance, resilience, and getting up when you get knocked down. So yes, I hope that you read all of these, and I hope that this wet your whistle. And again, I am Britt Brewer, host of the Dr. Book series for Bookwise, a podcast for book club.com. Happy reading, fam!